All right, we are good to go. I got Lindy Barber here today. We're going to hear about her cool story of she came to me looking for a job opportunity, and she came out of it a whole different person. So so before we kind of dive into how all that happened, Lindy, do you want to share a little bit about your backstory? Like, tell us like how you got to this point. Where you were before. You have an amazing story of getting to this point. So please just share that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been in fitness and health and wellness in some shape or form basically my entire life. I was very into every single sport, every single physical activity that I could get my hands into from my earliest memories. My parents put me into all different sports all growing up, and then I eventually chose soccer as my primary sport that I focused on. So I played soccer my entire life, played competitively through grade school, high school, and through college. Once I got out of college and playing competitive soccer in college, I had already started to find a love of fitness in lifting weights and a little bit more high intensity stuff outside of soccer. But that was the first time I'd really been introduced to lifting weights, was in my college curriculum of having to do weightlifting or strength training 2 or 3 days a week. So when I finished, I went home after college, found a gym that ended up being a CrossFit gym, or turned into a CrossFit gym, and realized that I could do cardio and weights all at the same time, and still had such a competitive drive in me that I wanted to continue that athletic ventures. I wanted to see what else I was capable of as an athlete. And when I found out and was told that I could be competitive in CrossFit, that was the route that I decided to take. I realized I still have this competitive drive. I still feel like I have all this athletic ability. I still feel like I can continue to improve and be my best. So I started to put all of my effort away from soccer, and now took that effort and ability and put it into CrossFit itself. All at the same time, I was still coaching some classes in person at some CrossFit gyms, still doing some personal training. But over a couple years, this all started back in 2011, I started to shift my focus away from my coaching career and my coaching education, and started to shift more into really putting 110% into myself as an athlete to see what I could do. So after 2013, which was my first year that I qualified for the CrossFit Games as an individual, I gained the confidence.
Insane, by the way, like insane.
I gained the confidence that I really could do this, that this was something that I could make into a career, that I am good enough at this. Like, let's really dive into it. So I really took a pair back on actual coaching and personal training, and focused 100% on myself as an athlete and an individual. So I continued to compete as an individual in 2014 and 2015 as an individual in CrossFit. And then after my 2015 appearance at the CrossFit Games, I had some back injuries leading up and throughout my CrossFit career that I had decided at the time was too much for me to continue doing as an individual. It was just too much for my body to handle. I was in pain more than I wanted to be, and I wanted to continue to be successful, but I was unwilling to put myself at a risk of injuring myself too much for the rest of my life. So then I reached out to a team, or I had put out into the universe that I was looking to be on a team in 2016 instead of continuing as an individual, and then actually got picked up by the best team that there is, called CrossFit Mayhem.
Yeah.
So I 100%.
Before you tell us about that, because I know like it's you're gonna tell us some really cool stuff. But like, what was your best individual performance in the CrossFit Games?
28th, I think.
Yeah, and so just in case anybody's wondering, how many people like do the Open every single year? You know that number?
Over 100,000.
And so 28 out of 100,000 is like insane. So like,
yeah,
it's insane. Like, it's so good. It's so good. But it gets better. So if you want to tell us about your journey into the team atmosphere of the games, that'd be awesome as well.
Yeah. So after 2015, like I said, I was starting to look for a team. I wanted to still be competitive. I still had that competitive drive, but I was unwilling to harm my body in doing so for the rest of time. So I knew that on a team, I got to split the work up a little bit. While I was still working very hard, I had other teammates around to support me and to help me out with the volume of work. And I was in a team atmosphere my whole life. Like, I was a soccer player this whole time. So I was also itching to get back into that team community feel. So I ended up joining CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, which was in Tennessee. And at this point, I 100% made the leap into 100% professional CrossFit athlete. So I was no longer working at a gym. I was no longer personal training. I was spending all of my time 100% on waking up, training, eating right, sleeping well, recovering as best as I can, wake up and repeat 365 days a year for the next 3 years. So I stayed on CrossFit for 16, 17, and 18. The successfulness of our team was that we ended up winning the CrossFit Games. So as a team, we won in 2016 and 2018, and we came in second in 2017. So it all paid off. It was an extremely great choice for myself. I did exactly what I wanted to do. I proved to myself the capabilities that I knew that I had. I had a great, wonderful time while doing it. And I was able to experience the life of a professional athlete in a way that I had always dreamed about as a little girl. While it wasn't on the US women's soccer team, as I initially thought, I still got to win an international worldwide competition, which was the best feeling in the entire world, especially coming from someone who was told through my back injury that I would never be able to lift weights again, and that squatting was just something that was out of my career. So during those 3 years of 100% all in CrossFit training with CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, I started to, towards the end, because of the volume and the amount of time that I had been competing 100% in CrossFit, starting back in 2011, as I said, my body was just starting to get a little beat up. So regardless of the amount of recovery and the good nutrition and the sleeping that I was getting, just the volume and the wear and tear on my body in particular was starting to be a little wearing on me. And the mental aspect of being expected to perform at 110% every single day that you show up started to be a little mentally wearing on me, because I was becoming so obsessed in what I was doing that I was neglecting so many other parts of my life, my relationships, my friends, my family, the fun aspect of any aspect of my life. I had put my education on hold, and I was ready to get back and to give back into what I felt was stop being so selfish in the pursuit that I had, and to start giving that back out to other people. So while I was still competing in 2018, I made the decision and told my team before anything became final that this was going to be my last season, and that this was going to be my final hurrah, and I was no longer going to compete in CrossFit after this year. During this entire time, I had also run a very small online business just to kind of help other people do some online personal training programming, maybe give them some CrossFit programming. Because of my back injury, I also have a specialty in core strength and back health and helping people come from injury back into functional life and functional fitness. So I've been working on this basically as my side hustle to my main gig of being a professional athlete this entire time. And over 2018, when I was ready to give back to the community and give back to all these people that had put so much support and strength and happiness into my life, I wanted to give that back to them in some way. So I decided that I wanted to refocus into them, and I wanted to spend more time on the business. I wanted to program for more people. I wanted to turn and try to change the lives of other people in the way that my life had been changed over the last many years. So after 2018, I stopped competing. I officially retired, which seems really funny because I was only 27 or 28 at the time. So I retired from CrossFit. And I switched. So I turned back into a coach. I started doing personal training again. I worked at a gym. We moved to Boston for a job for my then boyfriend, now husband. So we lived in Boston the last couple of years. I worked at a gym there. I helped to manage it and turned my entire focus and shift back away from me and into the clients that I had and the athletes that I worked with and their goals and what they wanted. And while this shift was initially fulfilling and beneficial, I also started to realize that I personally was having a hard time, not necessarily being happy for their success, but feeling lost in my own life of, but what do I do now? And how do I achieve those feelings of success and happiness? And now that I'm not an athlete, well, what am I? And what else do I have to identify with? And that's who I've always been. So I started this internal struggle and not knowing how to eat food, because I'd been told exactly what to eat at what time, the amounts, and for 7 years. So I felt so lost because everyone else had been making all these decisions for me for so long in regards to programming and time and training and sleeping. I was just such a robot in that way for a goal, for a purpose. But all of a sudden this freedom was very confusing to me, and I didn't know what to do with it or where to go or who to be or how to make my own decisions. So it was a very confusing time that has now led me to here. But I also feel like through those experiences and still working through all of them, but feeling like I know how to better manage myself in my daily life, and I know how to help other people that may be in that same situation, regardless of if they've been a professional athlete or not. Everyone goes through these periods of, I don't know how to love myself in this way, and I don't know who I am without this thing, or now I'm not running marathons anymore because my knees are blown up. Now I don't know what to do with myself or how to train. So I feel like through all of this, in so many different ways, I'm able to become a better coach today in what I'm doing and be even more passionate about it because I have so much more experience and empathy with every single one of these situations.
And so tell me a little bit about what were some of your limiting beliefs even when we started doing coaching and we started working together, like do you remember some of the limiting beliefs that you had?
For sure. I mean, I feel like I had all of these limiting beliefs for so long, like even throughout my very successful CrossFit career, when I was on top and I had just won the CrossFit Games and I was at what I was considering to be the peak of my physical fitness in every way, shape, and form, and everything was dialed in, I still believe, regardless of if I acknowledged it then or not, because I definitely didn't, but I still believe that I did not feel that I was valuable. I did not feel that I was worthy. I did not love myself. I felt like I continually needed to please other people. And I felt like I couldn't trust in my own choices. And I couldn't trust my own gut and my own belief about what I thought was best for me. I always had to seek the approval or a choice of someone else. I always asked the questions about what I should do with my life instead of making the decision and feeling confident in it. Even if I made a decision, like I decided to end my CrossFit career, I can't even tell you how many phone call conversations I had with my favorite people in my life, my sister, my dad, my brother, my boyfriend at the time, husband now, asking them if they thought it was the right thing. And I was like, well, I feel like it is, but like, what do you think? Well, how do you feel about it? Like, well, the conversation that we've had, how do you feel about how I feel about it? Like, I couldn't just make the decision and know it was best for me. I needed to feel the approval and the value and the confidence from other people to then gain that, at that time, false sense of confidence in what I was doing. So I feel like those were my main limiting beliefs, not only when we started working together, but through my entire CrossFit career and basically my whole life till now.
And so by having those limiting beliefs of like, always needing approval, always needing to seek outside, like yeses essentially, like what do you think, like how do you think that impacted you and like what did it end up costing you over that period of time?
Absolutely. I definitely believe that it impacted overall my joy of the experience of what I was doing. It was almost like because I was so, and everyone says this thing like they're their own worst critic. And while I believe that that is true, I believe that I was my own worst critic because I never truly believed in myself and my capabilities and my value. I feel like I would have been able to actually feel a sense of like very proud of myself and enjoy what I was doing and be able to stand on the podium and literally enjoy the experience as opposed to enjoying it for 15 minutes and then coming off the podium and immediately like searching for the validation from other people that they were proud of me. I would have been able to enjoy how successful I was in the thing that I was pursuing just because I only needed to be proud of myself and I only needed to approve of what I was doing, as opposed to I had many moments of validation, but those still came externally. I didn't have a lot of that from an internal standpoint, which I feel like that really held me back. While I enjoyed it, and I know that I did, I could have enjoyed it 10 times more if I believed in my confidence and the fact that I was as awesome as people told me that I was, and believed that I was as strong as I could be and was proud of myself instead of getting the 5-pound PR and immediately wanting something else, or immediately getting that 5-pound PR and telling myself, well, that's cool, but it's not as much as this person. Like I was constantly in this comparison and not belief of myself. And that's in that one way. The other way is I feel like I could have been even more successful if I believed these things. So while not winning the CrossFit Games is not a successful thing, I could have been an even more valuable member of my team. I could have done better as an individual if I would have believed that I could do it. For me, I was putting limiting beliefs on, well, if I get to the games, then whatever, then we'll see what happens, because then I'm just there and it's just such a blessing to be there. But that was my own limiting belief in that situation, was that I believed I could get there, but I didn't believe that I could do anything once I was there. And maybe if I actually had that belief in who I was and the fact that I was great at what I was doing, I might have been even more successful and enjoyed it even more. And if I didn't put those limitations on myself from all of this self-doubt and not believing that I was valuable to be there or that I was worthy of being there, I could have been happier and more successful, I believe, in what I was doing.
And so you also said a lot about how it affected you and limited you like as an athlete, but let's transition a little bit. How did I think it affected you in like your business and in your relationships? Like how do you think those sort of beliefs transferred over into those aspects of your life?
Sure. So In business, I allowed myself to believe that this is good enough for now. That, well, I don't have the time, I don't have the ability to make this grow because I'm so busy doing these other things. And I didn't believe that even without trying, I could have been more successful in what I was doing. To me, I limited my business entirely. I even said it earlier, like it was just a little thing that I was doing. And I believed that the entire thing. It was just something I was doing on the side. And while if I believed in it and believed in my ability to multitask and to be confident and to be able to handle things and to trust my own decisions, then I absolutely would have been able to grow it more successfully. So I limited my own, like in specific business, financial abilities that I could have had and the amount of people that I could have helped and reached, because I just told myself, well, it's okay. Like just make it small. It doesn't need to be any bigger. So that would be the business aspect for sure of during that time. Relationships wise, I was 100% relying on my relationships at that time to make me feel better, to validate what I was doing. So I explain it to people now as a very selfish time of my life in many ways. And while to be a professional athlete, you have to be successful, or to be the best in the world in anything, which is exactly what we were trying to achieve, you have to be selfish and you have to have supportive people. But I had people that were not only supporting my dreams and goals of becoming one of the best in the world at what I did, but I also had people that I made emotionally bone dry because of the amount of times that I asked them for their approval, essentially, and I didn't give it back. So I was much more taking of their love and their affection and their guidance, and I did not have the energy to give it back to them and to also tell them that they were valued and how can I help you and what can I do for you and let's talk about you. So I know that that hurt my relationships in that way. And while I came from a lovely home and relationship of people that were willing to give it to me every single day, I know that our relationships could be even deeper and more emotionally valuable now if I was able to give even close to 10% back to them, what the effort that they were putting into our relationship just to help me.
So let's talk about like how you have been working to overcome these limited beliefs through what I call like a breakthrough process, right? A belief breakthrough. And so kind of explain about like even from the first time that we did a breakthrough all the way to kind of now what you like, just your experience about that process.
Yeah, so I didn't honestly know what to expect. So I had watched these videos that Logan gave me, and I had watched other people go through this breakthrough process of identifying a limiting belief, figuring out where that limiting belief comes from with a memory, and then realizing what that limiting belief and memory actually turned into, beliefs that you have about yourself and how those can affect not only what you're trying to do in your life, but how you're feeling and how you're interacting with others. And it was one of those that I had done a year of therapy, but it was mainly focused on my food rules and overcoming my relationship with food in a way, because I was having severe anxiety over how to eat because I just had not had an event. So while that initially started to dive, and I told Logan this a bit, like started to dive a little bit into this, we literally just scratched the surface and we never talked about specifically limiting beliefs. While she had me have mantras to talk about, it was mainly in regards to food and before I eat and after I eat. So this was new level of deepness of like emotional connection, and especially tying it to a memory. So when I was watching these people, I thought during my own thoughts that I might have trouble with this, that I might not be able to identify a limiting belief, or that I might be like faking it, because those are the words that I use to myself, or that I might just like make something up instead. But when I did the first one, I think the very first one that we did, I went into the meeting actually not knowing that we were going to do it, specifically that you were going to have me go through this process. Yeah. But while I had watched the videos, I had almost tried to do it a little bit to myself just to like see if I could even come up with anything. And it was having trouble alone, obviously, because no one was guiding me through it, finding a memory to attach it. But went in, and as soon as you were like, well, let's do this, I immediately tried to think of, okay, like whatever, like let's just see what happens, like just relax, like it's not a stressful thing. And my perfectionism wants to win all the time. So I was like, even if like it doesn't have to be perfect, like just go with the flow, go and see what happens. And then I, over the first time, was shocked about how I was able to identify a memory, like how something just came up very quickly. And it wasn't a forced thing. I didn't have to think deeply hard or make something up. Like there was a memory attached that you could attach to whatever this limiting belief was. And then week after week, I think we did it like 5 or 6 times potentially. I started to look forward to it. I was like, well, I want to know what comes up, and I want to know what limiting belief is going to happen that I can improve upon. Like, what else can I get in there, and what else can I improve that will make this next week even better? So I started to look forward to it even more, and had much more positive experience with the memories that I had, and being able to turn them into better memories, and then being able to go back and talk to my last self, or have someone come up and there was people from my past that all of a sudden just showed up in my brain, which I was like, wow, I haven't thought about that person in a very long time. But it turned into more of an enjoyable experience. While you're still finding a limiting belief, you know that coming out of the end of it, you're going to feel like a sigh of relief at the end of it. Like, you're going to feel better and know that because we found that thing, you're going to feel better and being able to move forward in your day, change the way that you think about something, because you know that this limiting belief is not a real thing, or that we can find new values to create. So I started to actually enjoy it and to look forward to it, to see what happened and to see how I could grow in whatever that moment was.
And so before we started this, we actually had a conversation about a big win that you had this previous week. But would you like to share a kind of story of how you've actually used like this belief breakthrough work, and how you've actually used it and seen it actually change how you do things, and like how have you seen it in an actual standpoint affect your life more than from now? It's like, okay, cool. I start to see things, but like, how have you actually seen it in the real world and used it and seen it work?
Yeah, absolutely. So the kind of a specific example that we were talking about, while I feel like there's many that I could speak about now at this point, this was something that I had spoken to Logan about, how I knew that in my life I was an immediate reaction. So something happened, I immediately had an emotional reaction, and I just went with whatever that emotion was. So my emotions could go from like really happy to really angry, or really anxious to like really frustrated, or they were more swinging because I wasn't interpreting any emotion. I was just going with whatever my first reaction was. So I kind of talked to Logan about how through this process, it's allowed me to become more beneficial in interpreting whatever that emotion is, but accepting it for what it is, regrounding myself. What I told him was like a little mini grounding, little baby grounding, figuring out why I was feeling that emotion, but then I get to control whatever my reaction or whatever my second emotion is. So that first initial emotion is going to happen. Like it's whatever the emotion is, but then I get to recognize it instead of just react to it. I get to recognize it, decide what I want to do with it, and then reframe it or restructure it into something that's more positive or more beneficial, or something that will be better towards my day or my life or my relationship moving forward. So while I was starting to do that to myself, I now feel that I have such a better control over that I can now see my husband now reacting in the same way. So I can see him immediately have that emotional reaction, and I can help him to get through that. And I was telling Logan that I used to just try to be supportive. And in my head, being supportive was just listening to other people and letting them vent and letting them be angry and then feeling better. But in this last week, my husband had a reaction to something that was causing him frustration. And I was able to help him recognize the situation, realize why he was having the frustration, talk about it at more of a level-headed, grounded way. And then he was able to go back into the same situation the next day and feel better about the exact same thing. So the same thing happened back-to-back days, but because we were able to discuss it and realize what was happening, and I was able to help him see beyond pure emotional reaction what was happening in the situation, and I was able to help him ground and reframe it, that the next day the same situation happened and he came home and was like, hey, like it was really cool, like, and that totally worked, and I feel like we are better now because of it. And that was such a huge win for me, well, obviously for us as a couple, but for me personally through this process, because now not only can I do it to myself, but I can help my relationship and my husband's life in a way that he didn't even see that he needed help in. And it was something that he didn't feel like he was attacked for. It was just a conversation that he and I had about how to reinterpret the situation that I wouldn't have been able to do had I not been able to do these things to myself. We both just would have been in this like frustrated, angry state and still been happy together, but would have just been going on about our frustrations, as opposed to being able to reframe it, be happier together, and then continue to not have this same issue day to day. So it was very cool. It was a huge win. And these are the kind of things that I'm really looking forward to continually happening in whatever situations arise.
Yeah. And so like with all that being said, like what do you think that this skill set and this ability to be able to, number one, like understand these limiting beliefs, recognize them, absorb them, and then change them? Like, what do you like truly believe that that skill set is going to like what's allowing you to do, but also like what do you believe is got the potential to allow you to do?
Besides what it's allowing me to do right now, as you said, because right now I'm still in the process of like realizing these things are happening every single day. But now I'm very much more confident every day in the work that I am doing in all the ways. So in my personalized online business work, I just got a job last week as a in-person personal trainer here in New York City. I go into that job every day, not worried, not anxious, not nervous, but like totally confident that like they're going to come in, we're going to have a great time. They're going to get a great workout because I'm a great coach. And it's not even a question. It's not like I need to ask John, what should I be doing? Well, this person has these questions. Like, is this the right thing? This is what I have programmed. I now just come home and I tell him like, this person had a great session and this is what I did. And this is why. I'm not seeking his approval on the decisions that I'm making. I'm not wondering if what I'm doing is the right thing. I now just feel confident. Like I am a very good coach. I am very good at what I do. I am a good personal trainer and I'm good with people and I'm good at making them have a great session and have a great time while doing it. And that is something that 2 months ago, I would have been like, I feel like I'm a good coach. Like, I think it's okay. Like it's much easier for me to truly believe that, which allows for more success for not only my clients, but for myself moving forward. Because I have confidence in what I'm doing and I believe in my ability, it's going to be huge for my business and what I'm actually able to do just because I have the confidence to be able to do it, because I've been able to identify these limiting beliefs and change them into more positive experiences. Same way with my relationship with my husband. Like that's a situation that he and I wouldn't have had 2 months ago. Like I would have just listened to him, as I said earlier, and allowed him to be frustrated. But then, over time, frustration builds and who knows what could have happened 2 months ago, as opposed to addressing it, having a good conversation about it, so that I truly believe that his and my relationship will only continue to get stronger because of these conversations that we're going to be able to have together.
It's so good. And like the person who you started on the phone with me that very first day, this person who said like, I'm not good at Mark, I'm not good at sales. You were just like talking over yourself. And I called you out right away. And I was like, all the way from to today is just like, it's been honestly, really, it fills my heart up a lot to see you like own this and go like be vulnerable and go all in with it, because ultimately like the sky's the limit, right? And obviously like you're like you're a champion, like not just like an award champion, but you just are a champion internally, and the fact that you start to believe you are a champion, like you literally have the ability to do whatever you want. And whether that's again in the business, whether that's in your relationships, your personal fulfillment, like you truly do have that ability. And like I think that's something that I really appreciate about you, is that you have taken it serious and you've gone all in, and that's why you've reaped the rewards from it so quickly. So that's that's my little shout out for you as well. So
thanks.
But yeah, Lindy, I seriously do appreciate you sharing your story. You have an amazing story. I know anybody who listens to this, like they're going to resonate with you because it's powerful. And just again, I appreciate you being open and being vulnerable and also sharing your story, because now like all those things you had in the past are now your biggest asset. So
Yeah, awesome.
all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.